like we're respecting that we're taking money out of your pocket, and we need to invest it wisely to make sure that your property value stays, but people in Westchester are safe and secure. We had the #1 facility in corrections before Rob Astorino came in. We had the lowest recidivism rate in New York State before Rob Astorino came in. We do not have re-entry programs. We do not have the support systems that are necessary to make sure that when people have paid their debt to society, they can get back into society and not have to worry about being a stigma, but more importantly, worry about having to go back, because there's a path that we're supportive of in trying to make sure families stay together.
I mean, in the probation office they closed in Mount Vernon had programs like that.
Yep,
so not only did probation, you cut all it down, but you brought up corrections, and I wanted to give you all a chance to chime in. Anything that y'all want to speak from the corrections?
Well, first of all, let me say it's an honor, Legislator Jenkins. By the way, Legislator Jenkins is the only, well, I stand corrected. Lyndon Williams, Legislator Jenkins and Legislator Lyndon Williams are the only two legislators, not even my own legislator in Peekskill.
Who is Tesla?
Yes, stepped up and was on the front line in regards to this situation with the officers being hurt on the job and not getting their medical benefits if they don't pass the 5-year period. I have to say, Legislator Jenkins and Lyndon Williams have reached out to me since 2013. They've been on the front line. So in regards to law enforcement and trying to make a change, I have to give it to Legislator Penn Jenkins and Lyndon Williams, because they have been on the front line. Especially when we calling me, reaching out to me, I have to give those two legislators love and respect.
Thank you.
But with that said, there's a huge problem. So, now I think we have approximately 40%, President?
Yes.
About 40% new officers that's entering the Westchester Correctional Facility. There is still this law, not law,
county policy.
The county policy that if you are hurt on the job before 5 years, you do not retain your POMCO medical benefits. I know this personally because I was the first one that it happened to in 2012. Right. And I've been fighting this battle since 2012. You know, you've been there with me, and Mr. Lyndon Williams. And this policy, and also, this is not just corrections. This is all law enforcement.
Right.
County.
Right,
county law enforcement. So this affects every county law enforcement officer and their family. If you're out there getting hurt, doing your job, getting assaulted, car accident, something, you lose your medical benefits if you don't make 5 years
on the job.
On the job. And I know for a fact, Westchester County Department of Corrections, they emphasize during the orientation and hiring process that you have your medical for life. I know when I was recruited from state corrections, that I remember the captain at SIU was telling me, this is one of the things we have. You have your medical for life. You have your medical for life. I got hurt on the job, and I didn't find out I didn't have medical until a year and a half later.
Well, there's two things, Brother Baxter. One is that you've been not only coming to the meetings, and that's something that when we talk about being activist and engaged and involved, you can't just be active and engaged and involved and hit a blog site, right? You can't just say, hey, let me email somebody and not follow up. Come into the Board of Legislators, speaking the information to the committee as a whole, right? Talking to people, and the legislators don't have to, right? But I make it a policy to, when people come to the stage or come to the microphone in the Board of Legislators, I'm writing down that information and I'm going to follow up on that, right? And that's the kind of policy that I work, because I feel that that's what people are due when they took the time to come up and speak. And if you emailed or sent a letter, I would do that same level of response, not just, oh, thanks for your letter and good luck, right? Let's follow up and let's find out what was going on, right? So in the case with the correction officers, we did a few things that we could do, right? We did work for a different kind of assault that could happen, because law enforcement could be called in on any emergency situation. So let's say it was a declared emergency in Westchester County and correction officers were asked to be on the street doing something, right? Well, before before the law that we opted into at the New York State level, right? Before that happened, you would be out, right? So yeah, that was something that the union did work through, right? And we were able to get that piece. Now we need to continue to do that work on those 40% new employees that are coming in to say if they get injured, that is a permanent status. What does that mean, and how does that that protection happen for them and their families? Because it really is important, as you've been highlighting for us, and we've been trying to deal with, right? And understand, well, how do you do that? And what's those impacts? Because we're asking you to do a difficult job, a dangerous job, and there's compensation that should be made up for that, as that's part of the contract. And that was where the challenge is on some of these things. I look at things and say, what's the right thing to do for a person, right? Not what's in your contract, right? And I think that that's part of what is happening, or happened in your case and in those 40% correction officers. And we have to continue to work on making sure that something that is a policy, because that's a policy, right? Right? A county policy, it can be changed without a contractual thing, and not utilizing it as a chip, because somebody's family is at stake, and that's the way that we should be looking at it, and not even to the place where some people want to look at it, because I have talked to your legislator about this, to John Testa about it, and part of the concern, or like the Republicans' concern, is like, well, how much is that going to cost, right? And not for you, right? Right. In general, what exposure is the county, being open to? It's like, stop. What's the right thing to do for a human being that is working for us in Westchester County, right? That should be kind of the measure of what we're doing that for, right? And if there was so many people that got injured in a particular profession, a particular department, that means we should be doing something else differently, right? We should be making some corrections so that, excuse the pun, corrections, right? But we should be making some modifications in what work environment that there is, so that we would not be exposing county taxpayers to an extraordinary amount of money for something we can fix, right? If we can't fix it, we can't fix it. But in your case, in the case of someone getting assaulted, right, and being on disability pensions, right, we should be making sure that people are taken care of, no different than we would do with a veteran, right? So I think that those are the kind of things that we have to continue to work through. And that my view again is, what's the right thing for the person and the people that work for us, right? That's the way that they're working on behalf of the people of Westchester County. That's the level of respect that we should show to do that. It's just not $1 in your paycheck. It's the whole compensation package, no different than if you worked for IBM, right? So that's the kind of things that we need to do, and that we're going to continue to work on together.
I appreciate that. And Brooke, you can touch on something in regards to the numbers.
Right. I mean, every day.
Make sure you're talking to you.
Every day, officers are getting assaulted in the jail. They're getting feces thrown on them, urine, or a combination of both. An officer the other day, he broke his ankle in a scuffle. We had another officer that they also recently retired.
Caller, please hold.
He has less than 5 years on the job as well. So now that's another officer out with less than 5 years without any medical benefits. And he probably doesn't even know yet till his medical benefits stop coming, which happened to Maxwell. Wow. And it's going to happen more, because we have like a good well over 300 new officers with less than 5 years. So now you have them responding to codes, but now this is in the back of their heads, because now they're becoming more aware that, wait a minute, something happens, I'm not going to get covered. My family's not going to have any coverage. I have a newborn baby at home. It's not going to be covered. So now they're holding back on actually responding or getting involved in the situation, which is going to leave the officer that may be involved in a situation injured or more hurt, So everything is in the back of everybody's mind now. So we need somebody that's going to step in and look out for us, because corrections kind of gets lost, amongst the law enforcement community. Police officers always getting looked out for, and everybody focuses on police officers. Correction officers kind of get, they're like the stepchild of law enforcement.
Well, we got an honorary police commissioner in Mount Vernon who said corrections ain't even law enforcement. So.
Oh, right. A lot of times they don't even.
But then he's not a police officer either, though.
Right.
Right? So just in fairness, but the thing again is that when we look and say what is happening in corrections, there's some challenges and there's some changes that need to get made. there was contraband brought into the jail that if it was I've already saw us in a situation where it was a probationary person, they would got terminated, right? And there's no way that cameras should be getting into the facility that are not authorized. I mean, as a deputy commissioner that got caught out there doing that, right? That they should have been terminated, right? And it's not because, it's because that's what the message is in corrections that says this is contraband and you can't bring that in, right? So
it was a power selfie thing too.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And then the situation where there was actually a theft of one of the actors' things, right? So one, I'm not supposed to know that stuff, right? But I have friends, right? And they whisper things, right? But more importantly, that says that more importantly is that that's the kind of message that says we should not have that happen. Once we don't do those kind of things, then we can deal with reality that says right now people sound like they're not taking the action that's necessary that is going to not only protect fellow officers, right? These people are in our care, right? And whether we like them or not, because they were in our care, they're in the county's care. That's why the county provides medical coverage for them, because once they're inside, they have to have an equal level of coverage to do that kind of thing. We're doing something wrong, right? If people are getting feces thrown at them at a regular basis, and they're getting assaulted and those kind of things, it says, well, what other things are we not following up on from a penalty perspective that says while someone's inside that they're not getting the assistance that's required to make sure that their say is actually correctional and that they're able to move forward in life. If they are not doing the things that they need to do, and I do understand from speaking to some of the superior officers that there are things that can be done, well, you know what? It doesn't sound like that's happening, and now people are being in difficult and challenging situations in a place that, by the way, a corrections officer, and my dad was a New York City police officer. He would always say corrections is the most difficult job because you're dealing with the people that got arrested and the officers out in the street had guns and tasers and all those other kind of help.
Can they strike?
No, they can't. They can't strike.
No?
Strike.
Yeah, they can't strike. So that
No, they can't go on.
No.
So,
Well, I'm just
Neither can
wondering.
college professors. All the broke ass people who need to go on strike, who provide essential services to the government, are forbidden by law. And it actually distorts market mechanisms. It denies people of the full power of the threat to strike, and therefore it's almost guaranteed to lead to a decline in the quality of wage and compensation levels. There's something fundamentally unfair about this whole makeup.
And then people look at it with the people that have contracts, and they're like, well, no, they're going to get paid anyway, so they're not interested in making any changes in the contract, et cetera. And you, Dr. Bob, just brought up the opposite side, which people never get to see, right? They don't realize that, hey, wait, if we don't have working condition things that we can address, that those jobs still have to get fulfilled, or we're in trouble, right? And the thing never gets resolved, right? So that's why you have contracts right now in Westchester County with all the unions without a contract and CSEA without a contract for 7 years, right? But on the flip side of that, you also have the management employees that haven't also got a raise for the most part, right? For that same 7 to 10 years, and that's the same quality issue that you have to deal with, right? You pay for what you get, right? And if you do not do the things that are necessary to protect the people, right, that are working for you, they stop working for you, and they do the minimum, right? In Westchester County, because of its previous reputation, had the thing looking around that said we were doing the best. People were coming up with alternative solutions. The people that were working in corrections came up with different things to say, how can we make things better? And they would bring those to the Board of Legislators through the county executive, sometimes directly to the county board itself, to things like, all right, well, we need a different kind of facility for people that are visitors that are coming in.
We got a handful of callers.